Welcome to this evening session, which is preventing behaviour challenges for the early years. Tonight's session is designed for preschool children. However, if you have decided to come along and your child is already at school, lots of these principles will still hold for you. It's just that maybe some of the examples I give may be for younger children, but all of the kind of tips and practical strategies will still be relevant. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do in the next hour is I like to start most of these sessions with just a quick refresh of the learning profile. So we're just really going to look at one slide to remind people who've been to one of these sessions before about the kind of challenges and the relative strengths for our children with Down syndrome. And if you've not been to one of these sessions before, that may be new information for you. I'm then going to talk a little bit particularly about the social strengths that we know are typically associated with Down syndrome. And then we're going to kind of think how, having kind of thought about our children and this period that they're in, particularly in the early years, thinking then about how we teach them what it is we want them to be doing, and how we don't fall into that trap of teaching them and reinforcing what we don't want them to be doing. And then I'm going to go through these strategies to support positive behaviour, which you'll see on the slide there. Okay, let's get started. So, as I said, starting off with this learning profile, we know that there is a very specific learning profile associated with Down syndrome. So we know that our children are going to have a cognitive difficulty. Their kind of non-verbal mental age, if you like, maybe is going to be a little bit delayed. When I talk about non-verbal mental age, when we kind of measure skills for children, we tend to do it more for children, but also in adults. For most of us, we would measure our non-verbal mental age and it would come out at the kind of age range that your chronological age range that you're at, and then you'd look at all your other skills, and for our typically developing population, those skills would all be roughly what we would expect for that chronological age. For our children with Down syndrome, we know that they have this cognitive delay, so we would expect that non-verbal age to be a little bit lower, but it's not a case that all their skills are in line with that non-verbal mental age. There are some things that the children find more tricky than we might predict for that non-verbal mental age, and there are some things that are the relative strengths that the children do better at than we would predict from that non-verbal mental age or that cognitive ability. Of course, there is huge variability in our children, just like there is for all children. However, this learning profile typically will hold true. So if we have a quick look at the strengths, we see there that that visual learning. Our children have what we call a visual short-term memory strength. They are much better at remembering what they've seen and also what they've experienced. So when we're thinking about teaching, we're really wanting to make the most of this visual learning strength, showing them what it is we want them to do, modelling for them, getting others to model, surrounding them with great models of those skills that we want to learn, because we know they have this visual learning strength. We also have a relative strength, better than we might predict, in terms of social understanding and social skills. And I am going to talk a little bit more about those in just a second. And just to kind of finish off those strengths, we have a relative strength in self-help and daily living skills. Now that's for our young adults, really. And better than we might predict given their non-verbal mental age. Most of my young adults are able to take care of their everyday kind of personal needs. Does take a bit of work, might need to do some work on independence over the next 15 years, but certainly very, very capable. In terms of those areas of difficulty, just to start off with, we have a really high incidence of hearing issues in our children with Down syndrome. Particularly we know in this preschool group of children with Down syndrome, which means that, of course, children are having difficulties hearing information. We also have difficulties with vision. So lots of our children may well be wearing hearing aids and may well have glasses to try and correct their hearing loss and any visual difficulties. Even if they wear glasses, or people with Down syndrome have difficulties with focus, and everything really is a little bit less clear, if you like. When we think about those visuals we talk about, we really want to make sure that we've got as clear visuals as possible. The other big thing to know about this profile is this particular difficulty with verbal short-term memory. So I said our children have a strength in visual short-term memory, remembering what they've seen. They have a very specific difficulty with remembering what they've heard. And so we have difficulties hearing information, we have difficulties remembering and holding on to that information and then processing that information, which of course you might then expect. Speech and language is a particular challenge for our children with Down syndrome. Now, I'm not going to go into the various different areas of speech and language in tonight's session. There are a couple more sessions coming up over the next couple of months looking at speech language for children with Down syndrome. But just to say, we know that speech and language is going to be more difficult for our children right from the beginning. So we want to be, one, working on that, but two, also taking that into consideration when we're thinking about tonight, things like behaviour. Have the children heard? Have they remembered? Have they processed and have they understood instructions? And if they can't, then there's absolutely no way they're going to be able to follow those instructions. So that's where it comes to us to think about best way of giving that information and supporting that information. And then just to say, fine and gross motor skills, again, particularly in the early years, tend to be going more slowly, are more challenging for children with Down syndrome. Okay, so if we think about these social strengths for our children, I said this is a particular area of strength, and what we tend to see, particularly in, well, I think for most people with Down syndrome, just like most of us, want to interact with others. We're really keen to be engaging with others, engaging with our parents, engaging with other nursery staff, engaging with other children, with our peers, with our siblings. We really want to be involved in that mix. But as I've just said, we've got difficulties with speech and language. So what we often have is this group of children who are in this period for quite a few years where they want to interact with everybody. They're understanding, they're learning these words, they're learning about their world, they want to engage with others, but they haven't yet got the talking to be able to do that. However, we do have this social strength and we're really quick to learn what gets people to talk to us, even if it's not talking. So we're quick to learn if I accidentally knock my cup on the floor, look at that. Somebody comes over and says, oh, look out, watch out for that, don't make a mess, let's tidy that up. They come and talk to me. Let me see, do they do that every time? Yes, they do. And before we know it, we've just taught them a great way, not so great, but it's a good way for them in terms of getting people to come and communicate with you. So we're very good at picking up some of these little communication strategies, which aren't necessarily what we would say are ideal with what we're looking for, but they can serve that purpose really nicely. And that kind of, as we've just talked about, kind of links into what we know. Keen to interact with others, got this social learning strength, see how the world works, what gets people coming over and talking to me, know I've got difficulties with speech and language, and these things are more likely to occur, starting with very, very innocently. Don't go out to do these things to deliberately annoy people, but what we might think of as an unwanted behaviour can quickly be reinforced into a communication strategy. So we need to think about that. So it's really, really important to teach positive communication strategies right from the beginning. I do another information sharing session just really focusing on that, on making sure we've got more communication supports. And right from the very beginning, we're putting in those resources to support communication, reinforcing those positive communication attempts from the children. And I've just put a note on the bottom there to remind me really to say, This social strength is a relative strength. And so when we're thinking about our children with Down syndrome, I'll really be thinking about age appropriate expectations. So they're going to be moving from preschool, from nursery into school with their same age peers. And we really want to be thinking about, okay, what is the social interaction? What is the style? What is the behaviour we're looking for in that environment from this group of children, and reinforcing that for our children? Because like I said, this can be a particular area of strength. Even if I'm 4, I've had 4 years experience of knowing how the world works and getting people to work for me. So we want to be thinking about always teaching the wanted. As I've said, your child's going to learn really quickly what gets your attention. So we want to really reinforce all of the positive things that they do. And sometimes that can be a bit tricky. We can forget some of those things. When everything's going well, we go, oh, I'm just going to do the washing up, or I'm just going to put the washing on, I'm just going to take advantage. They're doing the right thing. But we need to be really aware of reinforcing, if you do that, I'll talk about that. So I've got on the top there, of course, responding to all sound attempts. They're having a go at using their voice. We want to be reinforcing, if you use your voice, even if it doesn't sound like mummy or daddy or Becky, I'll go, oh, are you calling me? What's it? What are you going to show me? And reinforcing that. If you use your voice, I will then respond to you. I mentioned those communication supports. Thinking about in the early years, particularly, the 2 things I'd really be working on is the children being able to show things to people and understanding, if I show you something, you are going to talk to me about it. So having pictures around, having conversation diaries around, having photo books around, and really teaching the children, having those where the children can get to them, teaching the children to go over and show those to everybody, take them with them to preschool, to family, to friends' houses, and reinforcing that's what gets me to talk to you is really important. And the other thing is pointing. If I point to something, then you'll name it for me. You might get it for me. Those are 2 really, really important kind of communication skills. Praise all the positive things, as I said, no matter how small. Oh, you're doing lovely sitting. Oh, look, aren't you eating that yogurt really beautifully? Oh, using your spoon. Oh, you're putting your socks on. Fantastic. So all those little things you kind of think once they've mastered them almost get a little bit forgotten. Being mindful of trying to give that positive attention and that communication to the things that are all really positive that the children are doing. I've put on there, no matter how small. Oh, you're doing great breathing. Well done. But just thinking, okay, at the moment things are going well. I want to praise you for doing a positive thing. I said it's easy to miss and forget when things are going well. So for some people, I think that's quite easy. For some people, it might take a little bit more time getting into that pattern of, oh, that is great. Oh, well done for. Oh, can you do? Oh my goodness, aren't you so clever? That kind of thing. And supporting each other in your kind of family unit to be able to do that. And then model and demonstrating the wanted behaviour and the praise with yourselves and others. Oh, look, I've put my socks on. Well done, me. Aren't I clever? Fantastic. Oh, and your brother, look, he's put his shoes on. I'm going to put a star on the chart, whatever it might be. But then you're reminding, you're modelling the positives and you're reinforcing them by popping all of that attention onto those things that you want them to be doing. So on the flip side of that is not reinforcing the unwanted. So when they do something that you don't particularly want them to do, like they accidentally knock their cup on the floor, or they drop their spoon or tip their bowl or whatever it might be at mealtime, you really want to not go, oh, don't do that, because the children are going to get, oh, look, big reaction, and she's talking to me again. Brilliant, I'll put that one in the bank and get that one out again tomorrow. So when you get those sorts of behavior, and often they're accidental, like in preschool groups, one of the things that often kind of go, oh, hang on, everybody. We might do a posting activity and somebody goes to post it in and accidentally misses. And everybody goes, oh, look at it. Hang on a minute. The child goes, if I miss the posting bin, everybody does a bit of a laugh and a joke and does that happen again? Oh yeah, before you know it, you've got 4 children all deliberately missing the posting bin because we all accidentally reinforced that thing that we don't want them to do. So again, some people can find that quite easy. Some people can find it a bit trickier and need a bit more support. Really not saying, don't touch that oven, but instead going, who can be the first person to touch the fridge? And going, this is where my attention is, not on that thing I don't want you to do. If they do something that you don't want, it's kind of about moving them away or moving the thing. Let's say they've thrown their car or whatever, you're going to move the rest of the cars away, or if they've pulled their sibling's hair, you might move them to one side, but you're not going to talk about it and you're not going to make eye contact. So you're really not going to give any attention to that thing you don't want them to do. And then after a short pause, you focus your attention on what you want them to do. Oh, look, I'm brilliant at doing puzzles, or isn't your brother brilliant at playing cards or drawing pictures or whatever it is you wanted them to do? And then you encourage them to, are you any good at puzzles? Oh, you are fantastic. This is what gets my attention. You doing puzzles, you doing the drawing, you getting dressed, whatever it might be. And then praising, reinforcing that's the thing that gets my attention, that positive thing that I wanted you to do. Right. So in terms of kind of strategies and things to be thinking about, giving a really clear message. Talked a little bit about the speech and language difficulties. It's important that you know, and those people who are around your child, working with your child, really understand what the child's language levels are like. So, for example, are they able to follow sentences like, put your apron on, we're going to do some painting? Majority of our preschool children won't be able to hear, remember, process that long sentence. What they will remember and hear is do some painting. And then I'm about to get told off for not putting an apron on, but actually I could never remember that bit of the instruction in the first place. So thinking about where the child's language level is at the moment. I put on there, just never talk about the behaviour you don't want to see. If you say, oh, you go into the toilet and don't play with the taps, what are they going to hear and remember? Playing with the taps. But even if they understood your sentence, you have just reminded them of the one thing that you don't want them to do. So I would avoid ever talking about unwanted behaviour as much as possible. I'll talk a little bit at the end about some boot camps, and I had a parent on there with a child a little bit older who said, oh, they love going in the cupboard and emptying all the things onto the floor. And the child gets up and walks off, and I think, well, I know where you're going. You're off to the kitchen to open up all those cupboards and put all those things on the floor. We just don't want to talk about those unwanted behaviours. Take time to teach new environments and expectations. If you think, oh, we're about to start toilet training, I want to do some real positives around what that looks like. What are the steps? Let me show you some visuals. You don't have to remember all of the steps, and I'm going to praise and reward and give you lots of attention for doing all the things that I want you to do. It might be going to a new group or a new preschool, or absolutely anything. Maybe playing with a new game. If I've got a new set of I don't know, farm animals, what is it I'm expected to do with these farm animals? Because if you don't give me anything to do, you don't show me, you don't praise it, chances are I may find something to do with them, like throw them or post them down the back of the sofa or what have you, and then you all talk about it, and then I go, oh, that's what I do with farm animals, and I know about those ones. So I want to be thinking, okay, I need to teach you, need to model it, need to give it a lot of praise. Said about the children being visual learners, so using visuals to teach and prompt is really, really helpful. Having things like visual timetables. This is what going to bed looks like. First it is bath, then it is teeth, then it is story, then it is good night. And you've got your visual timetable there, so you can tick it off or pull the picture off or however you want to use it. And then you can give your child some control. What's next? Have a look. Oh, you're right, it is cleaning your teeth, whether they just hold the picture up or point to it or are able to tell you. But you've got that visual timetable, visually seeing it, visually remembering it. They're going to learn that routine quicker. The other thing that's great about visuals is it makes all the adults stay on task and in the right order as well. So we know what we're doing. Now and next boards, very similar, just got now it's bath, then it's story, now it's sandwich, then it's yogurt. And when you're teaching now next, people will sometimes say, "Oh, I'm not sure my child understands now and next," and they won't do the first time you introduce it. That's why you've got to do that modelling and showing. And if I was introducing a now and next board, I would do it throughout the day with all sorts of activities. First, you put your shoes on, then you put your coat on. Like I said, now you eat your sandwich, next you have your yogurt. What we're going to play with first, puzzles, what do you want to play with next? Books, put them on there. So the child starts to learn. First, we're doing this picture. Next, we're doing that picture. Take that one off, done that one. And now I know it's the next one. And of course, the more you do it, the quicker they learn. This is how now and next works. And then if you've got a potential tricky behaviour, let's say they don't like doing, I don't know, sound cards. You put on there, first we're doing sound cards, and next we're doing, and then you can give them some choice. What's a really fun activity that you like to do? I'm just going to say now while I remember, and you follow in that same routine, or if you've got a sibling around doing the same routine, or if you've got Teddy around doing that same routine. Now we're doing sound cards, I'm doing them. If you're refusing, I'm going to do them. And then next we've got, yes, my favourite, bubbles. And I'm going to blow them and pop them up here where you can't reach them. Ha ha, brilliant, I love bubbles. Yeah, fab, do you want some bubbles? Ah, now sound cards. Next, it's bubbles, etc. I put on their social stories are great. They're just like little books that teach you how to do things. So it could be anything. It could be going to a new setting. When I go to nursery, I hang my coat on my peg. I put my I don't know what they take to nursery anymore. Put my coat on the peg. I take my shoes off from my indoor shoes. I can go over to the choosing board. I choose which picture I'm going to give, and then I go and play with that activity, whatever coming in the morning looks like. I'm playing with the farm animals. I get them out of the box. I can put them in the house. I can put them on the tractor. I can drive them around the track. I then put them back in the box. So we've taught you how it is, and you've got some pictures. The other thing that is brilliant, and I never think people use enough, and me included, is video. I'm going to video me or the child being involved or sibling doing that thing, and then I've got that little video to watch back. And you can talk about the steps, watch it over and over and over again, and that visual learning, modelling, and role play. A big fan of modelling and role play for that visual learning strategy. I've just put on there, kind of linking back to that, giving a clear message. Only say what you mean. So try to avoid saying things like, I'll leave you behind, because they'll know after the first once or twice you don't leave them behind. And don't change your mind. So if they say, oh, I want to watch Peppa Pig, and you say, oh, we can't watch it now. I said, oh, Peppa Pig. You say, no, not now, Peppa Pig. And on the seventh time, you go, oh, okay then. Well, you've just taught them, I don't necessarily mean no. It's worth keep asking, because I may then give in, which obviously we don't want. We want to be really clear that if that's what I said, that's what I mean. And we're going to be consistent and move on. I'll offer you some more choices, which leads on to my next slide about giving choices. Sometimes when children don't have a lot of speech and language, they can actually end up getting a reduced number of choices because they're not able to say, oh, can I have that? Or can I do that? Or please can I have one more, or what have you. So it's important for us to think about offering choices whenever we can. One, it gives them a bit of a sense of control, of being in charge, of being able to make some choices about what they want to do in their world. And the other thing is it's really great for providing a communication turn. So if your child doesn't have the language to be able to say, I'd like to do that one, or banana please, or cars please, or whatever it might be. If you give them a choice, and it might be spoken or it might be a visual, you might just hold up the two objects and then you say, oh, which one? And you wait, then you give them a turn in conversation. So it allows them to go, oh, okay, she's waiting for me. Now I'm going to say something, point to something, choose something, however it is they're able to make a choice, and gives them a bit of a turn in the conversation. Can help prevent frustration because they're not always being told what they've got to do now. But having said that, when you are offering choices, you're obviously, or hopefully, obviously, only going to offer choices that are suitable for the situation. So you're not going to say, "Oh, what do you want after your lunch? Do you want?" Well, it's up to you and your family, but you might not want to say, "Do you want yogurt or a banana? Do you want chocolate or a banana?" And every time they choose chocolate, you want to offer choices that you think, well, it's okay if you choose either of those. So it might be, do you want this banana or this banana? But I'm still giving you some control, and I'm still giving you a turn in the conversation, and I'm keeping you engaged. You've got my attention. We're having that kind of interaction. Are you going to wear this yellow t-shirt or this yellow t-shirt or these? I mean, if they can have more of a choice, brilliant. But when it's not suitable, you're in charge of deciding what's on offer. And I've just put on there, avoid asking questions when there is not a choice. So I think it's maybe something about being a bit British, but we do like to ask things like, "Oh, do you want to go to the toilet?" No. "Oh, well, we need to go to the toilet." Hang on a minute. If you didn't mean, "Do I want to?" Because no is a perfectly suitable answer. If you mean now is the time to go to the toilet, then say that. Kind of being that bit directive when you need to be. And then, like I say, giving choice when you can. Going to the toilet, do you go upstairs or downstairs, for example? Sit on the potty or the toilet. But whatever's a suitable choice. Just to kind of follow on is just about those establishing routines is important for all children, that we have some sense of routine and security. Now, nobody's going to stick to the same thing all the time and be able to stick to the same routine all the time. But the more familiar routines are, the children know them, that can be really supportive of, well, one, behaviour, because I know exactly how this works. I know what bedtime looks like, but also independence. So I know how this works. I know how getting dressed works. I know how meal times work. I know how brushing my teeth works. And the more I do it, the more familiar I am with those routines, and I just learn them from that kind of experience of doing them and become more independent. So right from the beginning, thinking about establishing routines around everyday activities like bedtime is often a big one. Going to bed in their bed, staying in their bed, not going into another bed, because that's what the routine is going to be. Like I said, you'll all have your own routines and expectations. Meal times might involve sitting at the table, might involve eating together. You've got like nice models around, even if you're not having your whole dinner, maybe just have a few spoonfuls of whatever you're having. But we see that modeling, we're involved in it, we're having that discussion around it, bath times, morning routines, etc. And using those visuals to teach and prompt everyday routines. I use that as an example earlier on. Thinking about that independence then, encouraging independence also can really support behaviour. It really links back to what I was saying earlier on about teaching the wanted, giving the child jobs and responsibilities, so giving them a bit of direction about what to do, and then praising them for it is going to help teach new behaviours, new independence, be less reliant on adults, have less people telling you what it is you've got to do, and can really support behaviour. So things like putting their clothes in the washing basket, laying the table, and it might be just with the plastic plates or the cups, or putting out the placemats, for example, rather than carrying knives and forks and things. Helping with the dusting, doing a bit of cleaning. I used to remember very, very vividly having a very mini ironing board to do the ironing next to my mum of my children's toys, toy clothes. But that kind of, oh, I'll give you something to do while I'm doing this job. Oh, yeah, brilliant. Done that t-shirt. Yeah, fold out. Talking to you about it, keeping you on track, giving you a bit of prompting. Lovely. And thinking about those self-care routines. feeding themselves, bathing themselves, toileting, managing that themselves. Lots of different stages, lots of different steps. These aren't things we're necessarily going to crack this week, but thinking about we need to be putting in those opportunities and going back and revisiting skills that maybe they couldn't do a few months ago, making sure we're not always just doing it for them and moving that forwards. Blowing your nose is always a great one. And again, going back to this is what gets me my attention. This is what gets me to praise you and say how fantastic you are. And we have a lot of communication around this really positive thing that you're doing. Not too badly. Actively teaching play routines and games. I talked about the example of the kind of farm animals. Depending on your child, where they are at the moment, quite often if we have a thrower, for example, we'll start by thinking about what toys do they actually know how to play with and can play with successfully. And I might start off by just choosing 3 or 4 until they're mastered, and then introducing a new 1 or 2. So they really sometimes we can. And if they go to nursery, it can be a different thing every day, and they never learn how to play with that one thing. And then it comes out again, and I've forgotten what we did before. So making sure that they do have a set of games and activities they know how to do. Thinking about what they can play on their own. So can you leave them with an activity for a minute, for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, and building that up over time. And timers can be good for that. Put the timer on. When it's finished, you come and you call me or you come and get me, and you can show me. And also, so that's one is thinking about what they can do on their own to amuse themselves. And the other thing is then thinking about games that they can play with siblings or friends. What are suitable games that don't involve too much talking? Often when I go to used to go to preschool and nursery, I used to like that magnetic fishing rod game. So you just hook out a fish, but I only take 1 fishing rod, so we have to pass it around the group. Here you go. Oh, thanks very much. What did you catch? Oh, got a fish. Move it on. So we're learning to play this game with my friends, how to build a tower with somebody else, rolling a ball backwards and forwards. Those are kind of your earliest ones, but then thinking about how you maybe play things like lotto or what you do in role play with the dolls or the vets, which comes on to my next one about imaginative play. Again, an important play skill and helps promote independence and decision making. Sometimes, again, we can get a little bit left out of imaginative play, or we're reliant on other people to say, oh, I'm going to set up a new play today. We're going to set up the shop. I'm going to get out the till. I'm going to get some packets of food out, maybe from the cupboard. We'll practice going round, picking some things up, putting them in the bag, going to the till, paying for the things. This time I'm going to set out the doctors. We're going to go to doctors. What have you hurt? Put a bandage around it. All of those pirates, all sorts of things. But really thinking about extending those imaginative play routines. And it may well not involve a lot of language to start with. And they may need some support of what they can choose and what they can access. Practicing those everyday situations. Oh, we'll lay the table for our toys. We'll put the toys washing in the pretend washing machine or in the real washing machine, not turn it on, just pretend, etc. Helping them put them in the washing basket, make the bed, helping them learn those some of those early self-care activities. Talked about a range of resources. Old cafes are very popular as well in our house. And then encouraging that play with others. So when friends or siblings come round, oh, we can get out this thing that we've practiced. We know some of the routines. We've got a pad to write our pretend prescriptions on for the doctors. And you can get your stethoscope out and that thing that looks in your ears and all the rest of it. So I talked about kind of not relying on language. Of course, we want to be teaching language. Talked about the use of pointing, gestures or signing. Obviously, many of our children are introduced to signing before in those preschool years. They're using signing or even natural gesture should be encouraged. Use of pictures, being able to make those choices, having those pictures around conversation starters. Talked about some of those. There's just an example. Well, I've got some there. Consider everyday useful language. So how do the children say hi? How do they say hello? Do they go into nursery and say high five? How can they do that? And it might be through talking, might be we need to teach some of that talking, or it might be I go in with my hello picture and I show it to my friend, and that's me saying hello. Or I learn to do hi means high five, and we teach the other children. That's what I'm coming round and asking. Will you play? There's an example of will you play communication support there. So you just have the little sentence on there. Doesn't matter that the child can't read it. But you'd say, oh, what do you want to play? Let's choose a picture to put on the board. Oh, yeah, Play-Doh. Will you play Play-Doh? Let's go and ask our friend. You're going to model with it, play Play-Doh. And what we're going to teach the other children is that if I come over with this sentence strip with a picture on, it means I'm asking you to play that thing. And again, you can encourage the other children to do the same. Why don't you go and ask Becky if she wants to play there? What we're going to do? Take that strip over to her, because even if they can't say those words clearly, having that picture will mean that everybody knows what we are asking. The reason I like the sentence is it means that the adult's going to say the same thing every time. So we're going to be modelling the same useful sentence. So will you play rather than what are you doing? What would you like? Would you want to come and join me for that? Nope. I want to start to learn the phrase, will you play? Other things that are useful is how you ask for more and how you say you've finished. Finished and stop, I think, are ones that often we like to do more, we like to do yeah again, and we like to do yes, but equally, how do we say, no, thanks, I've finished now, I'd like to stop. And sometimes that's going to be okay. And sometimes you might have to do, oh, we are going to stop in 2 minutes. I'll put the timer on. We've got 2 more to do. But certainly having a way for the children to tell you when they want to stop and teaching that. Often start that teaching that in a game that they like. So you or watching something on the TV, and I pause it. Do you want to do any more? Or have you finished? So they start to learn about more and finish, or in a game that they like. It's a good way to do that. How do they say help? And we do a lot of work on my turn, starting off with just this. This is me. Whose turn is it? Me. Because if I've got a way of asking for a turn, that's I might use that rather than just going over and taking whatever it is somebody else has got. Can I have and can I play? Can I have's at the bottom there. Teaching emotions, depending on how the age of the child and the language level. I think in the early years, we do happy and sad. I think sometimes cross gets missed out. I think it's quite helpful to be able to say that you're cross, because we all get cross sometimes. And what are you supposed to do about it? It's not about, I want to swipe everything or drop to the floor and refuse to move. We want to teach the children to say cross or to sign cross. And then what do they do when they feel cross? There's an example there of a social story for when I get cross, I count to 10. So I say I cross, there's the sign there. And then it says I can count to 10. Not expecting the children to be able to count to 10, but what we are going to learn is cross, and put my fingers up rather than dropping to the floor, swiping whatever it is. Whatever you decide is the thing that they're going to do. I can ask for help, then I'm going to feel happy, maybe. But again, getting everybody to model that. I've just stubbed my toe. I am cross, or my tower's just fallen down. Oh, I'm cross. What do we do? Let's have a look at our social story. I'm cross. And I've just put on there, it's easiest to teach when the child is feeling these emotions, when you're modelling these emotions in situations that they know. You can get some, you can buy emotion cards with people's faces on. Sometimes I'm not sure they're really very realistic, or even better if they're kind of those emoji pictures. I'm not sure anybody can pull some of those faces. So I think linking it to when the child's feeling like that, you might even take some photos to show, oh, this is how you felt when, obviously, when they fall over. You're not going to go, oh, wait there, let me take a photo. But once you've got a cold compressed bit of tissue on their knee and they're sat there looking a bit red-faced, might be a time to go, that's going to make a good, this is when I felt a bit sad. It's when I feel hurt, to link into actually knowing what we're talking about. Transitions can be a time where we see some of these unwanted behaviours occurring. So when possible, make sure the child knows a transition is coming. So if we're going to stop something, we need to give them a bit of advanced warning. And sometimes if we just do that verbally, they may not hear and remember that, particularly thinking if they're at nursery or you've got a busy house. So it can be useful to say, oh, we're going to have to stop in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. We can have one more go. And then tell them what's coming next or the next great thing. Because we know we need to go and get your sibling from school. And then when we come home, are we going to have toast or a banana? Or watch this, or play this, or whatever the activity is. Bringing in those choices again. And you might need to add a bit of a motivator in those choices depending on the child. Okay, so not bad for timing, I feel. Just to summarise, children with Down syndrome want to interact just like all children, but of course, speech and language difficulties are going to make it more challenging for our children. So it's really important that we're teaching, modelling, praising, and reinforcing all of those positive behaviours that we want, anything that we want the child to be doing, to be learning in that environment, and really. Hello, video one shouldn't be on there, sorry about that. Withdrawing attention from any unwanted behaviour. We tried recording this session as a two-part on-demand session, but we definitely get more people come to the live session. So stick with the live session. But there is a video on supporting communication on demand if you missed that session and you want to go and have a look at some of those communication supports. I just want to spend a couple of minutes just talking about some other things that you might be interested in. We run regular behaviour boot camps. So if you think, there are some great strategies there that I'm going to use. There are some there that I wish I'd known earlier, and I've got some of these unwanted behaviour. So we do run behaviour boot camps, which are 4 online sessions. We do one a week over a 4-week period. Before those sessions, you get access to 2 pre-recorded videos, and you're asked to complete a behaviour plan. And then as we go through weeks 1 and 2, you complete an ABC chart. I've just popped on there some of the most common behaviours that we see for this age group: throwing, physical interaction, pushing, hair pulling, hitting, etc., running off, refusals. And if you think about all of those things, if I throw something, what happens? Somebody normally comes and talks to me about it. If I push somebody, pull their hair, hit somebody, they turn around and talk to me, they make a fuss. Somebody else comes running over and talks to me. If I run off, people often run after me, and I look back with my smiling face and think it's a great old game. Or again, refusals. I say no, not going to. So just thinking about, if you've got some of those, remembering not to reinforce them with attention. And then just to mention, we also have our early years development programme, which is our service for professionals working with preschool children with Down syndrome. So they can sign up to the early years development programme and they get access to CPT accredited training, a whole load of information, videos, resources. They get a resource pack, and they also have access to regular online support sessions where they can just come along and ask any questions that they've got. We also have our early development groups, which really are looking at developing preschool children's speech, language, memory, early reading, number, fine motor. You can access information about those there. And then if there are any children who are off to school in September, or maybe we've got some children who are at school already, our early years development our early years development programme is for preschool children, and our primary education programme is really quite similar, but for primary school age children. So again, access to CPD accredited training, information sheets, videos from external experts, and ongoing support in terms of live sessions. Teachers, teaching assistants, Senkos, head teachers sometimes can join and ask any questions.